So we had finished the verse number 3rd. We'll just touch upon the concluding part, a couple of concluding remarks, and then we'll graduate to the Sutra number 4 in the second chapter of the Shiva Sutras. So the sutra, the third sutra was Vidya Sarira Satta Mantra Rahasyam. So what is this? These three words: Vidya Sarira Satta. So Vidya Swarupa Sarira Dharana. So this particular thing, who carries that mantra is generally understood or misunderstood as a combination of a few varnas associated with making of certain sounds, which will give us certain powers or certain elevations in the mind, or in the emotional seat, or in the the Vijnanamaya Kosha or Manomaya Kosha. Certain additional qualities will be added. That is the normal understanding of it. But as we have discussed this again and again, that mantranang matrika devi sabdanam jnana rupini, in the Devi Atharva Sirsha, which is also called Devi Upanishad, which is generally chanted or studied during the Navaratris, or when one is doing Chandi Patha. He says that, the Devi tells Vidyaham Avidyaham. I am Vidya, I am Avidya. Because this is basically a game of Maya. She is the liberator and she is the limiter. She is the one which enables expansion, and she is the one which sort of puts us certain limitations depending on where we are standing. The same principle works at two different levels in two different ways. If you are below the threshold, you suffer. If you are above the threshold, you enjoy. But then the graduation from the lower threshold to the higher threshold is through a mode of sadhana which is not bhedatmaka apitu abhedatmaka, abheda advaya prathatmaka, so that you have the non-duality in the mind. There you are actually, because even though it is Saktopaya, I've told you that Saktopaya is not completely disjointed from the Sambhavopaya. So you're already all the time having in the center of reference that non-dualistic realization of the Shiva Tattva, the Paramashiva. So what he's saying, that this particular mantra, of which Vidya is the Swarupa, okay? So Vishwa Abhedatmaka evam punna ahang vimarshanaatmaka. This is the word. So Vidya Sarira Satta. That Swarupa, Sarira means Swarupa. Vidya is Swarupa of which, and that Satta, that's the essence of that. That is the secret of the mantras. Its Swarupa is, so you see, it is Saktopaya. So the emphasis is on that, the Sakti, that is emphasized. And then the Satta word is brought in to ensure an understanding of continuity or unity with the Supreme. So he's saying Vidya Sarira Satta Mantra Rahasyam. So when you have that Abhedatmaka Vritti that you are meditating, and this mantra is made up of Varnas, and the Varnas are Varna Matrikas, and the Varna Matrikas are representation of that Sakti, and that Sakti is Shivatmika. So in a reverse way, you're going back to the origin of everything, which is the that original consciousness. When you understand that, then we are easy to find the ultimate purpose of doing any mantra sadhana. We had a long discussion yesterday how the same, because Varna Matrikas, then it is Sakti, and that Sakti, how it sort of appears as Jesta, right? And then Rodri, and then Ambika. It takes different forms. It's the same Sakti. And that also liberates us at that Ambika level that we had discussion in the previous class. So all the mantras are Varnatmaka, and so because the Varnas are Sakyatmika, and the Varnamatrikas, which are sort of permeating all this, they are the source of power of these mantras, and these Shaktis are not separate from the Shiva Tattva. Then we get so therefore we had already discussed how Lord Shiva is telling Parvati that the fools who do not know the secret, they don't know anything. They might do a lot of chanting and all, they might do a lot of japa, but I'm sorry, they do not understand anything. Therefore, he's saying, Yena jananti gurum devam sastroktan samayanks tatha. They don't know anything. Dambha kautalya nirata. On the other hand, they are kind of lost in their own imagination and delusion about what is siddhi and what they want to have. That is what we had. Then there was this commentary, Parabhairavya Paravaka, Satyatmaka Matrika. That is that particular Matrika which manifests when connecting between Pramatri and Pramaya. So Rekhini, that's called Rekhini, Jesta, and then Rodri, who becomes an obstruction when you are just ascending up and up. And then she again becomes Amba, who liberates when you have crossed that. That thin layer between all limitations and all opening to the liberation, that particular thin layer when you cross. So the mantra is not a Banna Sanghatana Swarupa. It's not like bringing together a few varnas and making a mantra. That's not the purpose. We have all discussed on it. So to conclude that mantra, when through the japa sadhana, the purpose of our meditation on the mantras or mantra sadhana is to realize what? Ahamidam. That, Vishwam Sariram, Sariram Vishwam. Earlier we have discussed that. That I am everything. Idam Aham. All that you see, I am verily, all this is a manifestation of me. Why? Because I am a part of the Paramashiva Tattva and it's all manifestation of the Paramashiva Tattva. So you see yourself everywhere. So the little I in us, the little ego self in us is replaced by an awareness of our Swarupa, which is the universal self. It's not the ego self. The moment we bring in the word ego, it is just separateness or it's a limitation. It is the cause of all sankochana, all limitations in our consciousness and its manifestation. Remove that ego, that littleness. Sri Aurobindo in the Savitri and also in Ishopanishad commentary keeps on telling that separateness. When you are disconnected from the grand self, from the divinity, from the Purushottama, you do not know even what is the purpose, and then you are kind of trapped somewhere. You are not, everything in you is kind of full of confusion and doubt and conflict. Once we are part of that grand plan, things are easier. Once we are connected with that grand plan. That's what I'm saying. Aham, idam. Idam means all this Vishwa. I am verily this whole universe. And then the second one, kindly. And then the second thing he says that I am also Shivoham. I am this whole samsara. I am also Shiva. And then this whole samsara, Vishwaha Swangaha, is part of me. Then you are you saying that you have become the universal God or anything? No, that is not the purpose. That is not the purpose of your. That is not the purpose of this. The purpose of saying this is, in fact, to emphasize the fact that you are trying to realize the unity between what you see as your individual consciousness and what is the universal consciousness, same as what we read in Vedanta, though in a different style and different way of approaching the issue, and the sadhana krama is slightly different. That Tattvamasi thing. And then this whole sansara, mama ayam bhavaha. So all this Aishwarya that you see, obviously it's all yours because you are, this whole sansara is a creation. This whole world is Jiva Srishti, it's creation. The Vyavaharika Sansara Srishti, it's creation of God. And you are not different from it. So everything is yours. And then when you have, there is a beautiful couplet there. Swatmiva sarva jantunam eka eva maheshwaraha vishwarupa ahamidam ityakhanda iti akhanda asya bringhitaha. So when you have that kind of realization, that everything that you see is out of Maheshwara and I'm actually not different from this. That Avheda, not Kalpana, but realization. Swanga rupeshu bhaveshu patyuhur jnanam kriyachaya soham mamayam bhivavam ityevam parijanatah vishwatmanah vikalpanam prasarepi maheshata. So, all these vikalpas after Atmajnana, the sansara will continue to be there. And we'll continue to feel thirsty and hungry, we'll feel sleepy. And then we'll have the limitations associated with the body and the mind, this whole body-mind complex. And yet, with that realization, you're breaking that glass ceiling which is holding us back, and we are connecting with the infinite divine self. So, there is a beautiful couplet in Netra Tantra, Mochayanti cha sansarad yojayanti pare shive. So you see, manana, trana, both, by doing mantra japa, you are uniting with Lord Shiva and dissociating with the littleness, the limitations, the vicissitudes, the interruptions, the conflicts, the differences, everything that is associated with the sansara. The domain of light and the domain of darkness, the domain of self-awareness and the domain of being lost in the crowd. So once we connect with this through the meditation, you remember earlier we had done in the Sambhavapaya, one of the sutras was that Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sanghara. When you meditate on this Sakti Chakra and you contemplate on it, sansara loses its grip over you because you see the sansara is working of these Saktis. That is what he is saying here. Mochayanti cha sansara yojayanti pareshive. So it will free you from the clutches of the sansara and help you reconnect with Paramashiva. Manana trana dharmitve manana trana dharmitvat tena mantra iti smrata. So the mantras, what is the secret is there, you see. Mantra word, you break it into two parts. And this is the supreme secret which is given here. So one part is manana. Okay, you meditate on it, you contemplate. And the other one is trana. It liberates you. When you meditate, you get liberated. So then for the manana trana dharmitvat tena, by that mantra iti smritaha. So that is why it's called mantra. So that is what there's. So essentially, all that he's saying is the first one is Chitta Mantra, who was mentioned. The first sutra and the first adhyaya is Chaitanyam Atma. So the message of this text, despite all details, is never to lose sight of the primary conclusion, the fundamental premise on which all other ideas are standing. What is that premise? Everything is Siva Tattva. Chaitanyam Atma Jnanam Bandha. The details, then you have problems because the Maya Karya starts. Similarly, here is saying that mantra is what Chitta Mantra he started. Now give you a little more detail as to how you will do the mantra sadhana in order to reunite with our purity, with our divinity. Where the duality is lost, attachments are nullified, and then we recover our transcendent nature. That is what is the particular sloka saying. Now, somebody would say, but sir, I have actually seen hundreds and thousands of sadhakas who are in a different realm altogether. These sadhakas are doing mantra sadhana and they have a lot of powers, and there are so many websites. The mantra, tantra, and yantra, the three tools of getting some occult powers. So if you have any problem, my daughter is not obeying me, okay, do this mantra. My wife is not obeying me, do this mantra. The same wife goes to that guy and says, my husband doesn't listen to me, okay, you do this mantra. So all mantras are there. I mean, they work, they give some results. What about that? Now, this sloka, this mantra, this sutra is about the futility of that sort of mantra sadhana is explained in the fourth sutra. The main purpose of mantra, the science of mantra, is not to give you this childish, low level, efficiencies or capacities or powers, whatever you call them. The purpose is to reunite. Alpena nasukham. The Upanishad says, why in Bhuma Vidya in the Chandogya? Alpena nasukham. Nobody is happy with less. Therefore, everyone wants to have Atmagyana. He wants to have understanding of perfection, realize his perfection. Alpena nasakam, who is happy with less? Everybody wants more. So that Ananda, which is Niratisaya, beyond which there is no further Ananda, that is what will excite us. That is what will hold the promise of liberating, and there will be nothing more to look for. If you buy a car and then you are still tortured by the desire to buy another, what's the point of buying that car? Anyway, you can buy any car, makes no difference. The purpose is to move. But if somebody tells, if you buy this, there is no more any desire for anything else, of course you should buy that. And that is what is liberation here. So the verse number, the sutra number 4, it says, Garve chitta vikaso Visishta Vidya Swapnaha. Garve. So, you can interpret it anyway, but Garve means here in darkness, in the working of the Maya, where you have the Vikalpas, you have the dualities. So, if you lose sight of the very purpose of this text, and then you read Varnamatrikas and this and that, and you don't want to do Sadrikas because these are different Adhishtatri Devata names are mentioned, so I'm going to propitiate them, I'm going to get powers. Okay, so be it. So he's saying, Garve, what is the Artha? Mahamaya Swarupe Ajnane. In the womb of darkness, in ignorance. That is Garve. Chitta Vikaso. And then you are expanding the Chitta. Today we'll have some understanding between what is Chitti or Chit and Chitta. What is the difference? The experts say the Chit, when it becomes Sankochanatmaka, when it becomes limited, it becomes Chitta. Pure consciousness becomes human consciousness when it is attached to the external realities and the internal realities, and it gets contextualized. The Jnana Sakti, which is unlimited Sarvajnatva of Paramashiva, when it becomes a Kanchuka, one of the veiling powers, what it becomes? It becomes Vidya. Of course, it is Suddha Vidya above, but here it becomes Vidya. It's a limited thing. It is not Sarvajnatva. Similarly, Kriya Sakti, Sarvakartukatva becomes Kala. So that the moment it comes down, it changes, it becomes something else. Similarly, that Chit Sakti, here becomes Chitta. It is a limitation. Okay, that is what he's saying. That so general then Vikaso avisista, not Visista. There is nothing special about that. You want to do this mantra sadhana, that is fine. That's not an issue. Any of us can do that mantra sadhana, but there is nothing special about it. Like Bhagavan Krishna, while explaining sannyasa dharma to Arjuna, mentioned that the person who has vairagya and continues to do his nishkama karma yoga in order to purify his consciousness, he's vishishta. He's a nitya sannyasi. On the other hand, the guy who is full of ego and runs away from his responsibilities and calls himself a sannyasi, when he is loaded with a lot of inherited backlog of desires and problems, and then he says, even if he has clean, he's saying, I'm a sannyasi. You know that? I've renounced this world. He has that ego. The moment you have the ego, I'm sorry, you are not a jnana yogi. What are you? He says, mithyachara sauchyate. He is called a fraudulent person who tells a lie, who is not genuine, he is not authentic. So that is what he is saying. Avisishta means it's not something special, something to look forward to. What is avisishta? That means all common people will do it. Avisishta Vidya Swapnaha. So first thing is, it is also some kind of Vidya. It's not Suddha Vidya then. Why? Because Avishishta Visheshana is there, that adjective. It is nothing special. It's Vidya, nothing special. Like somebody says, if you go to a mall or something, or you're going to a shop to buy some clothes for your daughter because it's her birthday, and you're checking, and then you pick up something. He says, "How much is this?" And he or she quotes a very high price. And then another one looks a little good, and then you say, "What about this? This was cheaper. You can take it. Nothing special about it." Why? No, no, this one is different. The color will not run, it's going to go on and on. You can wear it for 10 years, it will remain the same. The fabric is different, it's a designer thing. You can't compare this with that one. That's a assembly line production. We have purchased it from a factory selling it. This has come from a specific boutique of one of the designers. So you don't compare this product with that one. That is Avishishta, this is Vishishta, this is something special. So the mantra japa, which takes us towards unity with the Supreme Divine Consciousness and liberates us by dissociating our consciousness from all vulnerabilities associated with the samsara around us. That is the purpose of the sutra number 3. Here he's saying, on the other hand, if you're looking for some mental satisfaction, you're looking for some powers and realizations, which is, I mean, sorry to say that, but it's true. That's what 99% of the life situations actually demand us to do. Somebody is having an illness, somebody has some kind of a deficiency, there's some kind of a problem, and you want to remove that obstacle, and you want some spiritual help. And if you go, he would either say, you do this puja, you do this japa, you go to this adhishtatri devata. This is part of life. But if a person has the confidence to transcend that level of transactional sadhana to a more global one, a more fundamental one, where he connects, he may not get any easy results. You know, if there was some newspaper article I was reading the other day, that there is some, or maybe it's one of these shorts on the YouTube or something, where some scientist was a rocket scientist, and he wants to join as a marketing guy to do some data analysis because he has some good maths. And this guy is saying that, so I think it is taken from some film or anything. It's a short one. He says, so you are a rocket, you are a rocket scientist. He says, yes, I was. Why you want to do this? He said, very simple. It gives me a little more money, because that there I don't get money. So it's true that if somebody studies Vedanta or Siva Sutra, is into meditation, contemplation, he would not get the charms which a person is doing lower level sadhana who can perfect and show it to others. A guy who gets into technology will get an easy job quickly. The other one who sits in the library, sits in the university, does research, he's an academic. He has the pleasure of a different kind of enlightenment, but he doesn't have the access to power and influence which a little lower level engagement would have given him. That's a choice that all of us have to do. Sometimes it's satisfying. You need money, you do it, but after some time, you feel, where am I? What am I doing? And then you have lost the opportunity. You can't go back to the university. So many people make their choices. One has that clarity, he has no problem. That is what he's saying, Avishishta Vidya Swapnaha. That's delusional. Yes, that is Vidya, but that is called Swapna. It's delusional because it's not real. It doesn't give you liberation. It doesn't elevate you to that level of unity where you do not need anymore to look down at the samsara and get scared that it's going to pull me down. No, it will pull you down because you are very much at that level only. You have not ascended to the superior level of unity with the Supreme Conscious will of the Paramashiva. That is what he's mentioning. So if we quickly, before I go into the details here, I'll just look at the last commentary, which includes the commentary of Kshemaraja. What does he say? Mahahridanu Sandhana Upaya Bhuta. You remember that Mahahridanu Sandhana? What is the meaning? That consciousness, the field of energy, out of which all the waves are appearing. That is the Mahahrada. It's not a physical lake. Mahahridanu Sandhana Upaya Bhutam Yad Purvaktam Mantra Viryam Asti. That is the power of the potential of the mantras, that the Shiva Swarupa that you go and engage with, the Parashakti. Tadapi Bhagavatah Parameshwarasya Ichhavasada Eva Na Hridayangami Bhavati. If God is not kind enough, you don't even understand it. There's a beautiful story among the Vaishnava circles that once apparently Garudji was asking Naradji, this guy who sits on my back when I'm flying around, this guy is Lord Vishnu? And Narad was in tears. He says, oh Lord, without your kindness, without your grace, even the person who is touching you all the time is very much with you all the time. He doesn't know who you are. He thinks, if he is the Supreme Lord, how is that I can carry him? I'm a simple bird. How can I carry him around? If he's the Supreme Lord, he should be everywhere. I'm just a bird. He doesn't know. Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita, my janma, my karma, these are divya, these are all magical. You can't get into it. This is divine. You don't use your rational pair of eyes to analyze, make sense of what I'm doing here and who am I, why I look like a human being, why am I talking to you. That's beyond you. Mama Maya Duratya. You just focus on me and get liberation. Don't try to understand too much. At the micro, phenomenal level, because the phenomenal level we get very much confused and we get pulled from all sides. So he says, Hridangami Bhavati Apitu Bindu Nadadi Kalajanita Parimita Siddhishu. So we would discuss Bindu, Nada, and then Rupa and Rasha. These are 4 Siddhis. By the way, there is one school of Saiva Darshana. This is what Bindu Nada in this context means, but in other context it would be that Bindu represents Shakti and Nada represents Shiva and Shiva Lingam. It's like the particle principle and the wave principle. So you have both Bindu is the Shakti and the energy, and it's the Nada is Paramashiva. So together they are representing the Shiva Lingam, and that's a different thing. Here, very simply, and Bindu, earlier we have said that Bindu here means that Paramashiva Tattva. Here these are Siddhis. So that same word can mean several things depending on the context. And what he's saying, Bindu Nadadi Kala Janita. So what is Kala? Sarva Kartikatva, that is of Paramashiva. Once it becomes Mayika, it becomes Kala. So when Bindu, Nada, Rupa, Rasadi, Kala, Janita, born out of these Kalas, you have a few Siddhis, some perfections. Siddhis too, what are they? Chittam Arohati. Then in these Siddhis, in these perfections, the mind tries to ascend. It tries to perfect them. Evam cha tesam kidrisho chitta vikaso bhavati iti darshayati. In that case, how do you gaze, measure, make sense of that spiritual ascent? Whether you call it spiritual or not, there is some elevation taking place. How to make sense of it? Is it not? You cannot say that he doesn't have any power. I was talking to somebody, very interesting. I don't want to take the name of the great guru whose disciple he was, and he was saying, yeah, but don't talk like this. People are jealous of him because he has a lot of powers. A couple of years back, I met a very young, bright engineer, a kind of an IT engineer who has left his job after his father died, and he had a few experiences. And then, therefore, he came here and he said, what do you want? He said, I want to meet a guru who can give me the powers to control things. He said, you are in the wrong place. Rishikesh is not the place for that. Maybe you go to some tantrics. I don't know where you can find them. I said, go up. Go to Kedarnath, Badrinath. You might come across somebody. But Himalayas, Even if they are there, they are not visible to anybody. But that guy told me, I want that magical power. He lost his father, he turned spiritual, but he's not turning to God. Look at the mind. The mind is turning to certain unseen powers, and these powers are powers of God. But he's not interested in God per se, he's interested in powers that are given by God. What are what kind of a tendency is that? And the commentator is saying, I'll tell you, Kidrisho Garve Chitta Vikasa Avishishta Vidya Swapnaha. That is the fourth sutra saying that it is very general. That's what a lot of people do. That is what is a common tendency amongst people, and that is delusional. That's not real. And each word he is now explaining. Garva Namo, what is that Garva? Garve, in the Garva that is mentioned. Garva Namo Akhyatihi. Akhyati, you will be able to recognize something. Khyati. Akhyati, you are not being able to recognize. That means a state of ignorance. Akhyati arthat Mahamaya. Tatra tadrupe parimita mantra siddhi vistare. One is aparimita mantra siddhi. What is aparimita? Niritashaya ananda, niritashaya jnana, atma jnana. There is nothing more to achieve. Once we have God realization, there is no more any further realization to look for. We have got to the ultimate stage. But then, no, we don't want to go there. We want to realize, say, for example, some people say he can read others' minds. He can touch and give you certain sense perceptions or all these siddhis. What about that? That is saying. Parimita mantra siddhi vistare, what happens? When you have these limited siddhis and you expand them, chittasya yo vikasaha, the vikasa or the whatever ascension or the expansion of the chitta that you have, the individual mind, tavan matra eva santosha bhavati, it's just a level of mental satisfaction. It is self-delusional, that's what he's saying. And then what is that? Yam eva sarva janma sadharana rupa. Sadharanakya. It's very simple. This is very common to everybody. Sadharana rupa. Everybody, if you want to ask, would you like to meet God? Or would you like to have the ability to fly? What would he say? I mean, I'll at least save a lot of air tickets. Give me the ability to fly. God, we can meet tomorrow. Today you want to give? Okay, give me this power. So he's saying, Sarva Janma Sadharana Rupa Avisishta. Not Vishishta, apito Avisishta. Vidya. Why it is Avisishta? Why it is nothing special about it? And he's explaining that Kinchit Gatva Rupa. You don't become a Sarvajna. You would know something. I mean, that's not useless, by the way. Everybody is a good doctor, a good tech expert, a good professor, a good psychiatrist or psychologist or philosopher. Who are these people? They are all kinchit gyanas. They know a lot about something. Or as they say in the universities, what is research in the universities? It is knowing more and more about less and less. That's how my professor used to mention that. That specialization is about knowing more and more about less and less. The more specialized you are, the less you know in terms of what is the field, what are the fields of study you cover. But you are a super expert in a particular field. So he's saying what? So Kinchit Jnatva Rupa Asuddha Vidya. It's not Suddha Vidya, not liberating. It's binding. Asuddha Vidya. Saiva Swapna. That is the Swapna I'm talking. Why? It's not real. Like, for example, you have a house, but it's in the dream. The house isn't real. You can't live there. So you might have the siddhi, but it's like dream. Why? It is not completely nirarthaka, but it doesn't give you what you require. It doesn't take you that ultimate level of realization. Why? Why it's swapna? Bheda utpadaka rupa vichitra vikalpatma brahma asti. So it's actually delusional. It's a faulty perception. And what more? Bheda utpadaka rupa. This swapna, because it is Veda Utpadaka Rupa, it creates dualities. I have this power and I will exercise it, then I am going to get this. So we are still caught up in this diversity, which is delusional, which is binding, which is not liberating. Therefore, the purpose is lost. That's what he's saying. Asuddha vidya saiva swapna. And then he's saying, Ato bindu rato nasha. Okay, bindu rato nasha. Rupam asmad ato rashaha. So you have bindu and then nase, ato nase, rupam. So these are different levels of realizations. Pravartanti achirini vya khyavagatvena dehinaha. So the dehis, all the jivas, they do all the sadhanas and they get a lot of these powers. What happens to them? I'm forgetting his name, but his writings may still be there. He's settled in US. He's a Vaishnava guru. Good guy, very good guy. And he has a few audio talks on Upanishads, but he's Vaishnava, not very critical of Shankaracharya. But his life story is fantastic. He was an accountant, and I think he was Kannada or Andhra, and then he worked and he was in Chennai, and then how he sort of goes to Balaji temple and whatever, his long story, how he chases the ability to have some tantric powers. He's narrating everything. It was there in the web. I don't know if he's still around. I'm forgetting his name. Now, there's a very fascinating life story. And at one point, he meets a tantric who is doing lots of things, and he can even see if a thief has taken something very easy going, he can see all that. And then this guy, essentially, he's writing about these tantrics to tell us why he turned to Lord Krishna, why he did not take interest in all these gurus, tantrics and all. I asked that tantric, he says, so what will happen to you? Is there anything called karma? Because first of all, we do not know why that little boy died, whose brain you are using to create some kind of a tantric medicine. That little baby died, so you had prior permission. It's quite possible that you did some mantric spell to kill that little boy, and then you're collecting his brain, and then you're making some medicine. Do you think there is some karma and it's going to catch you? He says, yeah, it will catch me. There is no escape. I know it, but then I enjoy the power. That is the sad truth about it. That these are paramita siddhis. There is a very sad aspect to it. Very depressing consequence which we do not see. I mean, it's like you must have heard that sing, where do you go, my lovely, when you're alone in your bed? Long back, there was a song. So much of the material success which is glorified and stuff like that, or the Hotel California, much of it, there is a downside. And that downside is the limitation of that success, that achievement, that which dazzles others, but there is a downside to it, which others would not like to see. And that is what he's mentioning, that you don't go anywhere. So he's saying, Vikalpatma Brahmo Asti Yejuktam Spandakarikayam. Then that is mentioned, Ataiva Binduhu Avivaktaha Siva Prakashaha. Bindu, the real Bindu, Bindu Rasa, that I will discuss. The Bindu, Nada, Rasa, and all that we'll discuss. We have 20 minutes, so we'll be able to do it very nicely. So what is that Parama Bindu? Avivaktaha Shiva Prakashaha. Now, each of these he's explaining, this Bindu, Nada, all this, The first one he's saying, Bindu is Bhru Madhyadau Pradeshe Dhyana Prakarsha Pravardhamana Utturattare Prasadaha Tejo Vishesho Yo Bindu Veda Vyasat Dharatattva Dhainam Avivyajate. So what happens? There is this Prithvi Tattva on which some people are meditating. They focus their attention between these eyebrows and they get into deep meditation. So this is Bindu Bheda Abhyasa, the practice of Bindu Bheda. When they constantly do it, they are saying beyond a point, they develop a Vishesha Teja. Okay? They develop certain special power. And there is, I mean, you can say that they either look bright and they look powerful, there is some gravity about them, the way they walk, they talk, and there is some energy about them that they get it. So that is and what is nada? Nada is the ones who are meditating on the akasa tattva. So Vegavana Nada, he's saying, Vegavan Adyoga Nirghosha Ghanopakramah Kramasuksmi Bhava Abhivajyamana Madhumatta Madhukara Dhvanita Anukari Swacharita Dhvani Visheshwa Yang Vyoma Tattva Abhyasinaha Srunvanti. To put it in very simple terms, there are some people who are meditating on the Akasha Tattva, and that's a different kind of upasana. When they do this upasana, first thing is like if you listen to Ganga in Rishikesh, there is some sound, but you go to Badrinath, you'll see the ferocious sound of Alaknanda, because it's on a mountainous pass and water is flowing at very big, very sharp speed. And he's saying that fellow listens to that sound when he starts succeeding. After some time, it slowly mellows down. It becomes like the humming of a honeybee, okay, or a moth. So you would just have that ringing sound in your ears all the time. That is one siddhi. That is nada. And what is rupa? Now, those who are meditating on the Agni Tattva, for them he's saying, what is rupa? Santam asadya avaranepi sati tat tad drishya vastu akara darshanam yat tejaha teja tattvanya. There is some printing error in this book. Let me look at the other one. Anyway, so the meaning is a little half printed. Essentially what he's saying is, it's quite possible that you're sitting in complete darkness. Okay. So it's not possible for you to see anything. Even if you are sitting in complete darkness and you cannot see, but that yogi who is meditating on the Agni Tattva, he is able to see the object and its akara. It's a great achievement. It's a great siddhi. So that is what is called rupa. And what is rasa? Rasa is that jala tattva. So he meditates on that. So there is something called khechari mudra. Khechari mudra, they try to twist the tongue and they try to enter into the nasal cavity. It's very difficult. First you'll go and then it'll take you down, and then somebody who has practiced it for some time, I met that guy who is a practitioner of that Khechari Mudra. I said, what exactly happens? How do you feel when you actually successfully do it? He had done it. He's just a very normal yogi. He's not an intellectual or he doesn't know anything about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, but he has done that practice. And he's saying that, no, if you are able to do it, it'll take quite some time. It doesn't happen in a day. But if you successfully enter this particular nasal cave, then drops will fall, and then you are actually not holding any sweets in your mouth. You are not eating rasmalai or sandesh, but you will experience a certain sweetness in your mouth. So if you look at all this, without having to go through the material process, you are getting the result. You are experiencing sweetness without eating sweets. You are able to see things in darkness. You are able to listen the phala of sound without the presence of sound. Right? And the first one is Teja. So similarly, Vayu also, those who meditate, they also get some siddhis, which would be relating to that sparsha, that ability to touch. The power of touch will get enhanced. What happens to them even if you enhance it? Is it aparimita siddhi? Does it give us liberation? No, it doesn't. Therefore, he says that these are all end of the day. So nada and rasha is a rasatmaka bhogya padarthasya abhavepi. That bhogya padartha rasatmaka is not there. Nadaha pranava rupa dhvani visheshaha. It's like onkara dhvani. They constantly hear this. Pranava rupa dhvani visheshaha yam akasa tattva vyasa sila yoginah shunvanti. This other book is putting it very simple, that they are able to constantly listen to that onkar ucharanam in their mind, because there is no sound as such, but they are doing that dhvani sadhana, that therefore akasa tattva, therefore they are able to hear it. And rupa ghanibhuta andhakaradi abritepi, even though there is thick darkness sati, tatta drushya vastu akara darshanam jayate, you can see it. Rasa is rasatmaka bhogya padarthasya abhavepi, even though there is no sweets, no chocolates. Mukhe amritaswadaha, then you are able to experience it. Tatha Vayu Tattva Dhainam Yoginam, this those who meditate on the Vayu Tattva, Sparshananda Anubhavapi Asmad Eva Jayate. So it's like even if you're lying down on a stone bed in a stone platform and it's a hot summer day, it's quite possible that you can experience the benefit of sitting in an air conditioned room and sleeping on a good bed, because you have that powerful ability to experience the benefit of touch without actually touching any particular bhogya padartha. Yogi nam to samahita chittena, the real yogi samahita chittena samprapta siddhibhyopi viraktavyam. They are not interested in the siddhis. Why? Adhyatmika, adhidavika, adhivaitika, all these, okay? Maka tapatraya utpatika shanti rupa mokshakya parama purushartha. So the real yogis are not interested in all this, because the adhyatmika, adhivautika and adhidaivika tapatraya, they want to go beyond that. They want to escape the clutches of samsara. You can have the siddhis. You will have the siddhis of, let's imagine you sit and you can see everything in darkness, but you are hungry. Who is going to fill your stomach? You might feel heat and cold. Okay, I will do the other sadhana. Then you will not get this one, depending on where. You can't be all over the place. So all these issues are there. So he's saying these are verily, essentially, they are like dreams. So they will not give you the kind of liberation that you are thinking. Therefore, it's essentially a wastage of your time. Therefore, this asuddha vidya, kinchit gyatva swarupini, evam prakritanana prashuta vidya. That is itself is prakritajana. That means asanskrita, the one who has no introduction, who is not initiated into the real secret science of mantra japa. What is that mantra japa? In order to realize the Shiva Swarupa. Then Saiva Ishta Vidyeti Kinchit Gatva Swarupini Asuddha Vidyasa Supana Vikalpa Pratyatmakaha. That is what he's mentioning. That Asuddha Vidya, because you have Sankalpa Vikalpa and it doesn't liberate you. So it might give you, he's saying, Na gachatyatha chuchayam chittam siddho prarohati bindu nadadi jatayam tesang tu mita yoginam. The real guy will not be enchanted by all these things. Okay? So he's saying, agatapi ta siddhi, by mistake that siddhi comes to you. Khalikritya yada punaha, then he just dumps them. I'm not interested. Then what I avastabnat yasau yogi parang siddhim tadasnute, then he gets ultimate result of atmajnana. He's not interested in these siddhis. Then he goes up. And therefore, he's saying, antaram nada anusandhana lakshanam japam kuryat. Not the outside sounds and ucharanams to get some siddhis, but to reconnect with yourself. Natu nanavida ucharana lakshanam bahya japam kuryat. The external japa, no. So we had a lot of discussion. Correct, we should do proper ucharana or improper ucharana, of course. Mantra, you should do proper ucharana even to get the minimum vibration. The purpose of doing correct ucharana of the mantra is not to get siddhis, but in fact you have to have that nishkama thing, that you have that nishkama upasana. So through the japa we'll get some result and the system gets purified. And if there is a guru who gives the mantra, it gives results. There are certain mantras you don't need a guru. Like a lot of people say that the Krishna mantra and Kali mantra, you can do it even without gurus, but it varies from person to person. So whatever mantra has been given to you, most of the people are giving Gayatri mantra. And when they are getting threaded, you can do that. You can do any other mantra. There are a lot of mantras given officially by different ashrams and different gurus. That is a thing. So ultimately, what happens is that when you have Sarvajnana Swarupa Vidya, so that is the nature. Kinchit Gadma Rupa, when it becomes less, when it becomes limited, that becomes Vedanishta, it becomes Vikalpatmaka. That is the root cause of ignorance, of faulty perception, which doesn't lead us to our cherished destination of Atmajnana. Therefore, ultimately we have to go and get this particular thing. So with this, and there is a little more discussion, but we are not further going, so we'll stop here and we'll start with the fifth mantra uh, tomorrow, and that fifth sutra tomorrow. Any questions? We have a couple of minutes. Any questions? Okay, so I'll put an end to the YouTube and then we'll do the Santi mantras. Let's do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam
Idam
Purnamad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you. Pranam. So again, meet